recent announcement that Battlefield franchise will be heading back to World War I, fans of the franchise have been buzzing about what we could possibly be seeing with the game taking this new direction. I'm your host, as always, KMacTime, and today we're going to take a look at 10 things we want to see in Battlefield 1. Okay, first things first, we all remember the launch of Battlefield 4 and just how awful and buggy the game was in those first few months. The netcode was terrible, matchmaking didn't work, and the list of problems went on and on for EA and DICE. However, eventually these problems were addressed and fixed, but it took over a year for the game to play the way it should have at launch. DICE cannot afford to stumble out of the gate like it did with Battlefield 4. Battlefield 1 is going to be something that could be make or break the company going forward, and if they want to please the gamers who buy their games and pre-order their games and buy the DLC, then it cannot have these problems at launch. The next problem that needs to be addressed is the campaign. BF4's single player was a jumbled mess. I remember when I first played it, I beat it in 4 hours in one sitting on the hardest setting, and it was incredibly easy and really short, and the plot was so terrible. I mean, it was devoid of any memorable characters or memorable moments. Battlefield 1 will have to attack this problem head on and deliver a cast of characters that gamers can connect with and a plot line that pulls gamers in and holds their attention. Even though the single player campaigns are usually just an afterthought for everyone who just want to jump in and play the multiplayer, it is still essential that DICE delivers at least a somewhat decent single player campaign for those days that you just don't want to jump online or maybe your internet's out. Now, weapon variety has always been a major selling point of the Battlefield series, and this entry will need to continue that into Battlefield 1. Now, many people were turned off by the thought of World War I weaponry, but we saw in the teaser trailer that we are going to get more than just bolt-action weapons. We can look forward to using things like machine guns, rifles, snipers, trench weapons, and maybe even they touched on having different melee weapons, which I'll touch on in a little bit. So having a wide variety of weapons is always something that's good to see. We saw in the Star Wars game that came out by DICE, the lack of weaponry really turned a lot of gamers off. If you only have a few guns to pick from, then things can get stale rather quickly. But now, speaking of weapons, it isn't just good enough to throw 1,000 guns at us and think everything will work out perfectly. If a handful of the guns turn out to be way better than the rest of them, that's all people will use. And it doesn't matter how many guns are in the game if people are only using 2 or 3 of them. Weapon balancing needs to happen in Battlefield 1 in the worst way. Each weapon needs to play a specific role, kind of like that rock, paper, scissors feel to it, where you take something here, you give something there. If something's not good at long range, it better be good at mid to short range, and vice versa. DICE did a decent job of this really late in Battlefield 4's lifespan, and hopefully they will continue that on with giving each gun a purpose in Battlefield 1. Another major issue that needs to be addressed is the clunky melee system. In Battlefield 4, knifing opponents was only doable if you snuck up behind them. If for whatever reason you tried to melee them from the front, you were basically giving the opposing player a free kill, as all he had to do was tap B to counter and stab you in the throat with your own knife. This needs to be changed in Battlefield 1. And with the developers already being kind of touching on this, on the concept of having different melee weapons with different traits, this is something that DICE has been aware of and they're trying to fix, so it looks like we will be getting this at least a little bit. Hopefully, fingers crossed on this, it doesn't suck as bad as the Battlefield 4 system. DICE has always been known for hiding its Easter eggs deep within its game, and the fans love it. Whether it's getting a giant shark to jump out of the water, unlocking a secret weapon or bow, or just getting a special DICE LA camo, gamers love these hidden secrets and go through great lengths to solve them. I remember when they got that one in the latest DLC where they had to get the patterns, they had to find 7 switches hidden on a giant map, they had to figure out these Morse code patterns. It was very in-depth and it was awesome. It gave something other than just mindless shooting back to the fans of the franchise, and it made things kind of fun. There's many videos on YouTube, people trying to figure this out. It brought the community together. They were working on this together, trying to figure it out, and eventually they did, and it was really cool. So this is something that I would love to see continue on into Battlefield 1. I do believe it will. DICE is always really cool about putting these hidden Easter eggs and puzzles into their games and maps. So looking forward to seeing what they bring to the table in Battlefield 1 with that. Now, however, there has been something that has been lacking from the franchise that other games like Halo and Call of Duty have been doing well for what seems like years now, and that is a decent theater mode. With massive scales of battles and beautiful maps and all these kind of fun things going around the map, the game is absolutely stunning. Battlefield could use a great theater mode to really boost what the game is all about. Those Battlefield moments, those moments you can't get in any other game, any other shooter, and it just only happens in Battlefield. Jumping out of a jet and RPGing the jet behind you, using C4 in the back of a quad to blow yourself into the sky and RPG a helicopter. Only things that can be done in Battlefield need to be done so that we can appreciate them more. Yeah, we get videos of them now, but could you imagine having a cinematic view of a theater mode? Would be absolutely amazing. I know it's something that they probably won't do. They may have touched on it in the past, but it'd be really cool to bring in something like a Halo theater mode where you can go back, slow-mo things, look at things. It'd also be a kind of a fun way to analyze opposing teams, their strategies, their setups, that kind of thing. So I think it'd be cool. Hopefully we see something like that in Battlefield 1. And finally, the biggest and most important thing that we need to see is destruction of environments, and not like BF4's so-called Levolutions. While Skyscrapers Falling was super cool the first time, it grew stale and it didn't give us that sense of happening differently every time. We don't need destructible giant set pieces like a dam blowing up or a skyscraper falling. We need destruction on a smaller, more detailed personal scale. We need it to be different every time. If I shoot down the left corner of a building with a tank, it should fall in a different direction and look different from when someone blows up the right side of the building with C4. It needs to be different every time instead of these giant set pieces that you just kind of grow stale. And if developers have mentioned this in the Battlefield 1 teaser trailer, they were talking about it. They were talking about how they're taking Levolution or destruction to a whole new system in the new game. They even mentioned that in early testing, they wound up with maps that were just completely reduced to complete rubble, and they may have had, in fact, too much destruction in these, and they were going to tone it down a bit, and they were going to fine-tune it through beta testing, which I'm sure we'll see in the beta coming up soon. So it is looking like they are working towards a better destruction system with personal, more intimate kind of things instead of these giant set pieces that are just kind of triggered off at certain points in the game. So that's kind of fun to see, and hopefully it's better than the Battlefield 4 system. But anyway, that's all we have time for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to smash that like button. It really helps me when you guys hit that like button. Let's try and get this video to at least 500 likes. Also, if you're new around here, feel free to subscribe to my channel for all the up-to-date information on Battlefield series, Call of Duty. We're going to be doing Overwatch, Halo, all that kind of stuff, along with my cartoon videos and my other rare game videos in your sub boxes. So if you guys are into that, click that subscribe button if you would. But until next time, guys, remember that's always K-Mac time somewhere. Take it easy, and peace out.